soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world.
It was the largest invasion force ever assembled, but this is the story of one man and one boat. It is a story of uncommon valor, of how a young man from Oskaloosa, Iowa, found himself alone at the front of the most important military charge in the history of warfare on June 6, 1944. A terrible and glorious assault on Nazi-occupied France, immortalized with the name D-Day. The man was U.S. Naval Lieutenant Howard Vander Beek, the 26-year-old skipper of Landing Craft Control 60, one of the smallest and yet most essential vessels of the greatest war fleet in history. 6 LCCs were commissioned to lead the storming of the 2 American sectors, Utah and Omaha, 3 for each. But one Utah Beach LCC failed to make the channel crossing, and the other struck a guide buoy, disabling the propeller. So, Landing Craft Control 60 set course for the jaws of the German war machine at Utah alone. One tiny boat at the tip of the spear, an American flag pelted by the coastal winds, fastened at its stern. Stephen Ambrose, author of the critically acclaimed Band of Brothers, writes of the moment in his historical reference.
D-Day, June 6, 1944, the climactic battle of World War II. That left only Vander Beek's LCC-60 as a guide for LCTs and the first wave of LCVPs at Utah. It was an impossible task for one boat to do the work of 3, made even worse by the offshore wind and strong tidal current. Lieutenants Howard Vander Beek and his navigator, Sims Gaudier of the LCC-60, took charge. They conferred and decided to make up for the time lost by leading the LCTs to within 3 kilometers before launching the tanks, which were supposed to be launched at 5 kilometers, giving them a shorter and quicker run to the shore. Using his bullhorn, Vander Beek circled around the LCTs as he shouted out orders to follow him.
This was the very flag that steadied General Theodore Roosevelt Jr. as he trailed behind the LCC-60 in the first assault wave, along with Captain Leonard T. Schroeder, who rode with Roosevelt and would become the first American to emerge from the sea that day. For some of the heroic soldiers who stormed Utah Beach, this may well have been the last American flag they would ever see. Lieutenant Vander Beek would survive 19 charges on the beach on D-Day and another amphibious assault on the coast of France some months later at the forefront of Operation Dragoon, before returning to America with this flag neatly folded in his footlocker. On the 65th anniversary of D-Day, Vander Beek was interviewed by a local newspaper in his Iowa hometown and photographed in front of his flag, the only souvenir he retained from his noble service to the liberation of Europe.
On Old Glory, the toll of 6.5 decades of wear is impossible to distinguish from the battle scars, the article reads, but one symmetrical hole in the blue field of the 48 star flag stands out. That's a hole where a bullet went through, Vander Beek said.
But like the Star-Spangled Banner that inspired Francis Scott Key to pen the words of our national anthem, this is a flag strengthened and exalted by its wounds. More than any other American flag ever to take its turn upon the auction block, the offered relic, the single most important artifact of the D-Day invasion in private hands, validates beyond question our nation's status as the land of the free and the home of the brave.